Hello and welcome to Stockton Junction. Today I'm doing the video I mentioned in my previous video on constructing the scale model scenery concrete lineside cable trunking kit. It's a very competitive kit when you work, if you do need a lot of lineside trunking compared to the pre-molded stuff, which obviously is easier to use because you can just take out the packet and paint it and stick it down. But this stuff goes a lot further per pack, works out a lot more cost effective, and is actually an extremely very good kit. It's very versatile compared to the plastic ones. These will bend a little bit for corners. You can cut them very easily to length, and I also modify mine a slight bit, which I'll show you towards the end. And they are a extremely good kit. That's the model number if you're interested in purchasing some yourself from them, and it's scalemodelscenery.co.uk. Right, so what do you get in the pack? First of all, you've got your main sheet, which we'll go through in a minute. You also get a printout of the part numbers, which corresponds to the instruction sheet. I don't use this because I've made a few of these already. I know what I'm doing. They also give you some detailing sections here, which is a very good addition. I don't use them, but I'll show you why, because I modify mine slightly, which I will show you in a short while. But these are very good, especially the corner pieces. So put that aside for now. Right, so you've got 5 strips there to make 5 lengths, which are this long each. So that's pretty big. That's just under 11.5 inches, 5 lengths per sheet. I can't remember how much this costs now. I think it's 5 or 6 quid. Maybe 7 at the most. I should have checked that before I said. Right, so the easiest way I've found to do these, obviously they are attached to the sheets. There is little tabs in between all of these little bits, but because they're not straight in a straight line, it makes them very hard to sit there. If you want to do it one at a time like that with a knife, you can do. It would probably be the most ideal way to do it. But what I do is, first of all, I get this top edge, get my ruler along like so, make sure it's really on the edge, get a nice strong sharp scalpel blade and cut through the end, spin it round. Do the other side. That basically allows this sheet to come off like so. This bit is for the corner pieces. I'm not going to go through making those. It's pretty much the same principle as that. You take these pieces out, you stick these two into there, upright, that one there upright. I always put one of those on there first, and then that's your top. Very simple to do. It's pretty much the same as this. So for this, we've got our sheet out. I'm just going to cut this one off here and separate it to one of those, just for simplicity. So that is one complete set. So you have your top, an inner top, a lower bottom. That's the main bottom piece and the 2 sides. So very simple. I'm just going to hold the end. They come off very nice and easily on the straights like that. That piece is rubbish. There's 2 of these pieces. I'm only going to be using 1, and I'll show you why. You can use 2, and I'll show you where you would do it. So I'll put that there for now. Then another another scrap piece. Right, this leaves you with just these pieces here. Now, as I said, you could go in there. There's 4 on each of these sections, 4 little joins. You could sit there and cut them by hand. I don't bother. Just gently, very gently, pry them apart. Works fine. I've done it with 3 sheet packs of these already. I did cut the first one out. It took me forever, so I gave up. Next one is a rubbish piece, so that one I don't mind bending up a bit. That leaves me the centre and another edge. See, very simply done. Just be a little bit careful. It doesn't matter actually if you do break these, because they are little cuts in between, but if you do break them, just cut off the same amount on 2 of these and make a small piece. It's not a problem. In fact, I've done many small pieces like that. At one point I was cutting them in 3 and then gluing them together just to make it a bit easier to handle, because they're quite long. Right, so that leaves us with all our parts to make one of these. So first job is the base. That's your base there. I'm going to stick that there. Now obviously we need some glue. This is just an old pot I'm using. It's actually Mod Podge matte in there. I always use Mod Podge matte because if there is any glue residue, it doesn't go all shiny. And I don't like working, I don't use fine tip applicators. You could sit there, use a fine tip applicator and glue it straight on. I prefer to do it the old fashioned and the messy way. So just pour some glue onto my bit of plastic sheet packaging, which was the packaging that the product came in. So nice and useful for that. Put my lid back on my glue because... Right, so we get one of our little thin pieces. That's the top, so don't confuse them. It's a lot wider. We need leave that to the side. We won't need that yet. So all I do, doesn't matter which side you use. Get some glue. Onto there, turn it over, get your base piece, stick it on dead center. And what you're looking to do is make sure that all the little tabs either side are level. I don't know if you can see that. See how they level all the way along. That's done. That piece is done, finished. Just going to press it down. And normally I'd put that aside, leave that to dry. I'd cut all my pieces out and I'd work on the next one, then the next one, the next one, and so on. So we'd put that down. And the next part, the sides. That will only take a minute to dry, 2 minutes. They have printing, as you can see there, on that side, but not on that side. So make sure that that side there with the printing is facing outwards, because that's the line that creates where the cable trunking would be in real life in short little sections. So getting our base piece again. Just going to get some glue on my finger, run it along that edge. all done. Then taking our first side, obviously like I said, making sure that the edges are on the outside. Just going to place that first end in. It's a bit tricky to start with. Sometimes it sticks to your fingers a little bit. Not a problem. And that's on. Obviously turn it to the side. Make sure you haven't got, like there, I've got some gap. Just squeeze it down. Just about being gentle with it, really. And that's one side on already. So while I might leave that to dry for a second, we'll just talk about the top. This is the top part that goes on there. What you're meant to do with this piece is turn it over and stick that central, obviously, down there, so that the lid fits into the top better. I don't bother, don't need it. You can do it, it's purely your own personal preference. For the way I build them, don't worry about it. So, next job, that's pretty much nearly dry. Going to turn it round. Glue the other side. Again, making sure that the cut sections are on the outer edge. If you do mess up and put one side on the inside, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that side's facing the back of the layout and no one will ever notice. Not that I've ever done that yet, but I'm sure it's easily done. The one thing I have noticed with these kits is you've got to be quite careful, because otherwise the end will start to bend inwards like that. You need to make sure that they are sort of straight. So we'll leave that there. And that's that bit done. Just make sure it's nice and flat. Next stage would obviously be just put some glue on the top, stick it down like so, and that would be done. I'm not going to do this one now because I'll leave the base to dry for a little while. So, but then basically you end up with something like that. It is hollow a little bit, which is good. So, if you wanted, this is the point, say you wanted to have an open section with the cover off, you could cut out some of this printed pipe work, stick it into the center there, or as the corner pieces are like this, and you can have one with a lid off like that, so you could put one of these corner sections cut out inside there. That's a good detailing point, but this is where I make mine a little bit different. So what do? Well, here's one I did earlier. You can see I don't know if you can see the pipe work in there very well, but with a lid off. So what do? We get a section like so. Sorry. And I've got some wire. Now this is the same wire that I'm going to use for my point motors, to wire for the fake wires for the point motors and to cross the tracks, etc. And this wire is a 7/0.2 wire. It's thin enough to be able to use, but it's also thick enough so that it will stay straight when you want it, or bent when you want it, so that you can mold it to the shape of areas you want to use, which is quite good. So if you've got a point motor, and you can sort of have a wire, as you can see, just led there, it will stay. This is literally an old a bit of wire that I picked up, and I thought this would be ideal for that, so I don't use it for anything else at the moment. So what I do is I cut a couple of small sections, which I cut up earlier very easily. I just folded the wire like so, cut there, make sure they're nice and straight. So choose a little section. This is a good reason why I don't mind if small bits fall off when you're trying to make them, because you can use little bits like this to make something. So I'm going to put some super glue in there, and then take my two wires, put them into the hole there. Just going to make sure they're pushed down nicely. Obviously wire does tend to bend sometimes the wrong way. In fact, I did the other one earlier, no problems, and this, there you go, it's in. So now we get a section of lidding. I want 3 parts, and obviously as you can see they've got the little cuts, so just cut just move that camera a little bit. And I've already got an odd piece there. So super glue, I'll put the lid back on. So I'm just going to put some glue on these two, on the end. Stick the lids on those ones. Wipe the excess glue off the sides. Again, like I said, it's the matte Mod Podge, so it won't dry shiny anyway, so don't mind too much. Always seems to take longer to do the sides, although I did paint some of these pieces before. When they're just card, they do tend to glue a bit easier. And it also obviously needs to dry, but there is a cable trunking section with the pipe showing. I think it looks pretty good. At this point, obviously, you can have a lid hanging. You can just glue a lid hanging off, or sideways across like that, etc. Looks quite realistic. Or even just have it down on the side. But that's how I do my cabling for the trunking. And just show you. Well, before I do that, when I do these, I paint these with the Woodland Scenics concrete paint. I haven't got one here, but it's one like this, but the concrete one. I just give them, literally make them up like this and then paint them. Usually have about 2 to 3 coats, As you can see, it's a bit patchy in places. I don't know if you can tell, but there is a few patchy bits. Not bothered about that. Obviously didn't paint the bottoms, but not worried about the patchy bits, purely because when I put them on the layout later on, I will be doing airbrushing, and you'll get a little bit of residue of airbrush, dirt and grime sort of going on them a little bit, so it'll weather them in quite nicely. And also the patchy bits make them just look a bit older anyway, so look quite good. Just show you over here, see what I've done. I started to put in these are actually shrink tubes that I bought a job lot of really cheap. I was going to buy the orange pre-made ones, but I'm not worried. Orange, I'm sure they would have used some yellow ones here and there as well somewhere, but hence that wire there is just literally pushed into here, and then with a fine pair of tweezers pushed it into the hole in the end of there so that it looks like it's going in there. I'll do the same this side later on, and the same from here round, and put it in and glue it onto the end of here, etc. So, but as you can see, the these ones haven't been painted yet, but these ones have. So there's a slight colour difference because I made these ones up at a previous time. So later date, before I do the ballasting properly, I will paint all of these ones that I haven't already painted with a nice couple of coats of the concrete paint. So, and the other thing I wanted to just show you quickly with these is how easy they are to cut to length when you want them. So I'll just sort my camera out, sorry. So you decided you want a piece 4 or 5 long to fit in a section. Literally find a line. As you can see, there's these lines, so just choose one that you want to cut up where it wants to be cut, and with a scalpel just gently I saw backwards or forwards, keeping pressure on it. It's a nice sharp blade, and cut. So easy it is to cut. There's a little bit of trimming needs to be done there. And hey presto, smaller section for wherever you might want to place it. So very good kit. Not too hard to make, a little bit fiddly with the gluing the sides on for some people maybe, but if you've got experience in making these kits, then I don't think you'll have a problem with it. And obviously cost effective. Yes, it takes a little time, but you'll save a lot of money using these kits, I think. And they do look good. And I have, as I show you, I put them in before ballasting. On the other side of the layout, I put them in, ballasted, glued the ballast down. I've had no issues with you know, the glue reacting with them once they're already glued down, etc. So, you know, you shouldn't have any problems making them and using them. Obviously don't put the glue down in litres, but if you're doing it ballasting properly, you shouldn't have an issue. So anyway, hope you've found this of use or of interest. If there are any other videos you would like me to do to show anything that I have been doing on the layout at any point, and please feel free to comment and ask, and I'll try and get them done as and when I can. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.